My name is Emily Carter, I'm 29, and for most of my life, I thought family meant something unbreakable, something you could lean on. Turns out, even the strongest roots can rot, quietly, invisibly, until one day they snap. It started last fall. The leaves outside our little house in Portland were just beginning to curl at the edges, golden and fragile. My husband, Mark, and I had just found out we were expecting our first child. We were terrified, excited, unprepared in every possible way, but somehow, that felt perfect. I remember standing in the tiny spare bedroom, the one that would become the nursery, sunlight spilling across the faded carpet. I traced my fingers along the window frame, imagining a crib there, curtains with tiny stars, a rocking chair near the corner where I could hum lullabies at 2 a.m. It was a dream I'd carried since I was little, a dream I thought my parents would share with me. My mom, Diane, had always been the picture of warmth, at least in public. Sunday dinners, church events, neighborhood gossip sessions. She played the role perfectly. But behind closed doors, she was different, controlled, measured, always weighing love against convenience. My dad, Tom, was quieter, almost absent at times. He worked long hours at the car dealership, came home tired, and spoke mostly through grunts and nods. But still, I thought this would be the thing to bring us together. I told them over dinner one night. It was a cool Friday evening, the kind that smelled faintly of rain and nostalgia. We were sitting in their dining room, my mother's spotless kingdom. Not a single fingerprint on her glass cabinets. Everything perfectly placed, perfectly lifeless. I waited until dessert. My heart was pounding as I said, "Mom, Dad, I'm pregnant." For a moment, silence. Then my mom's lips curved upward. Barely. "Well," she said, setting down her fork, "that's big news." My dad glanced at her before mumbling, "Congratulations, Em." But there was no sparkle in his eyes. No joy. Just a polite acknowledgement, like someone had told him about a promotion at a job he didn't care about. I tried to push through the disappointment. "I was hoping," I said carefully, "maybe you could help us a little. With the nursery? We're trying to save up, but, you know." My mother's fork clinked against her plate. She didn't look up. "Oh, Emily," she sighed. "You know things have been tight lately. Your father and I can't just hand out money every time you need something." It wasn't the words that stung. It was the tone, cold, final. I felt my throat tighten. "I wasn't asking for money," I said softly. "Just maybe some help painting. Or picking things out." "Mom, you're amazing with decor." She looked up then, finally, eyes sharp and dismissive. "Well, I have my hands full with your brother these days," she said. There it was. Jake, my younger brother. The golden child. Jake was 26, still living with them, still finding himself, as Mom liked to say. He'd gone from one failed business idea to another, always with my parents' safety net stretched wide beneath him. They'd helped him buy his first car, paid off his credit cards twice, even helped him fund a travel vlog that lasted about 3 weeks before he got bored. Meanwhile, Mark and I had been scraping by, 2 jobs each, trying to pay our mortgage and plan for a baby, but I wasn't supposed to notice the difference. I was supposed to smile, be understanding, be the mature one. The conversation that night ended with polite goodbyes and hugs that felt like rehearsed motions. As we drove home, the silence between Mark and me was thick. He finally said, "You okay?" I nodded, staring out the window. The reflection of streetlights blurred in my tears. "Yeah," I whispered. I should have expected it. But deep down, something started to shift. A quiet ache. A seed of anger, buried deep where love used to grow. The next few weeks were a blur of paint samples, budget spreadsheets, and sleepless nights. I started doing the nursery myself, sanding old furniture, painting the walls a soft cream color, and hanging little stars I cut from cardboard because we couldn't afford real decor yet. Mark tried to stay positive. He'd come home from work late, hands rough and eyes tired, and still help me tape the corners or fix the crib. But every brush stroke I made carried a weight. like I was painting over the cracks in my heart. I wanted them there. I wanted my mom's advice. My dad's quiet pride. Instead, I got silence. About a month later, they invited us over again. I thought maybe they'd changed their minds. Maybe guilt had set in. When we walked in, the house smelled like cinnamon rolls and coffee. Mom was all smiles, fussing over Jake, who was sitting on the couch with a girl I hadn't met before. "This is Samantha," Mom announced proudly. "Jake's girlfriend." Samantha smiled, shy and sweet. She looked younger, maybe mid-20s, with soft brown hair and nervous eyes. I smiled back, trying to ignore the twist in my stomach. Dinner felt strange that night. Every topic seemed to orbit around Jake. His new job, his new car, his new life. And then, after dessert, again that strange déjà vu silence. Samantha cleared her throat and said quietly, "We actually wanted to share some news." She looked at Jake, who grinned like he'd just won the lottery. "We're expecting," he said. My heart stopped. The room blurred for a second. I heard my mother gasp, then laugh, an actual laugh, warm and unrestrained. "Oh my God." "Jake, that's wonderful," she cried, rushing to hug them both. My dad's face lit up for the first time in years. "Finally, I'll be a grandpa!" He clapped Jake on the shoulder like he'd just achieved something monumental, and I sat there, quiet, frozen, watching the same announcement that I'd made weeks ago play out again. Only this time it mattered. Mark reached under the table, squeezing my hand. But I could barely breathe. My mom was already talking about nursery colors, baby showers, doctors, plans. Her voice was filled with energy and joy I hadn't seen in a long time, and none of it had been there for me. Not a single bit. After dinner, as we were leaving, my mom pulled me aside. "I hope you're not upset," she said sweetly. "It's just that Jake's younger, and he'll need more help than you. You're independent, Emily. You've always managed on your own." There it was again. That word, independent, the badge she pinned on me every time she wanted to justify withholding love. I smiled politely, nodded, and walked out the door. But inside, something broke. Something I didn't know I'd been holding together with fragile hope and denial. That night, I sat in the half-finished nursery, staring at the unpainted corner of the wall. The paintbrush slipped from my fingers. I thought about how love was supposed to multiply in families, but in mine, it seemed to have a limit, a quota, and I'd already used mine up. That was the night I stopped waiting for them. The night I decided that if I wanted something built, I'd build it myself, even if that meant starting from ashes. The weeks after that dinner felt strange. Like the world had tilted slightly off balance, and I was the only one who noticed. Everything I did, the nursery, the doctor visits, the baby planning, felt heavier, colder. Because every time I looked at my phone, there was another message from my mom, but not for me. Not about me. Messages for the family group chat, plastered with photos of Jake and Samantha. Smiling selfies at their ultrasound appointment. Her hand was resting protectively on her barely there bump. Heart emojis, confetti gifts. And then, at the end of the day, one small message addressed to me. "Hope you're feeling well, Emily. Don't overdo it." Like a polite afterthought, I told myself I was overreacting. That maybe this was just how things went sometimes. But then the comparisons started. At brunch one Sunday, Mom leaned across the table, smiling that sweet, careful smile of hers. "You know, Samantha already picked out a nursery theme," she said. "Forest animals." "Isn't that darling?" I nodded. "That sounds nice." "She's so creative," Mom continued. "Jake says she's been planning everything herself. But of course we're helping her out with the big things. Crib, stroller, baby monitor." Her words hung there like a quiet slap. The same items I'd been saving for, one paycheck at a time. I looked down at my plate, pushing scrambled eggs around with my fork. "Must be nice to have help," I said. "Oh, honey." She sighed. "You know we'd do the same for you if we could." But I knew it wasn't true. They could, they just wouldn't. That night, I sat in the nursery again. The walls were done, The crib assembled, the mobile hung above it with tiny stars that turned lazily when the window was open. I thought it would make me happy to see it finished. But instead, it made me feel small. I whispered into the quiet, "Why am I never enough for them?" Mark, sitting cross-legged on the floor, looked up from tightening a screw. "Because you stopped needing them," he said simply. He always had a way of saying things like that, truths I didn't want to admit. He stood up, brushing dust from his jeans, and kissed my forehead. "They don't know how to love someone who stands on their own." He was right. And yet, that knowledge didn't make it hurt less. The next few months passed like a slow unraveling. Samantha's baby shower came first. Mom hosted it, of course. Rented out a fancy cafe, custom invitations, pastel balloons, even personalized cookies shaped like baby onesies. I wasn't invited to help plan. I was just expected to show up, and I did. Because that's what good daughters do. When I arrived, everyone's attention was fixed on Samantha. She glowed, surrounded by gifts and laughter. My mom hovered near her like a proud hen, her face soft and radiant. When she saw me, she waved cheerfully. "Emily, you made it!" "Grab some punch," I smiled. "Of course." Inside, my chest felt tight. I moved through the crowd of family friends, people who had known me since I was a child. They all said the same things. "How wonderful for your brother. Your parents must be so proud. When are you due again?" "Next month," I'd answer. And every time I'd see the flicker of surprise, as if they'd forgotten I was pregnant too. Forgotten me. At one point, I caught Mom helping Samantha open gifts. A top-of-the-line stroller, a handcrafted crib, a set of matching outfits embroidered with Grandma's favorite. I froze when I saw the tag, because the handwriting, perfect cursive letters, was my mother's. I felt Mark's hand slip into mine. His jaw was tight. "Let's go," he murmured. I wanted to say something, to make a scene, but I swallowed it down, because my parents never responded to anger, only silence. We left early that day. In the car, the sky outside was bruised purple, heavy with rain. I rested my hand on my belly, feeling the tiny flutter inside me. That small heartbeat. That little life. "She doesn't deserve this," I whispered. Mark glanced at me. "Who doesn't?" "Our daughter. She deserves a family that cares." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Then we'll build her one. Just us." I nodded, and for the first time, I started to believe it. When our daughter Lily was born, everything else faded. The pain, the bitterness, the exhaustion. It all disappeared the moment I held her. She was so small, so perfect. Her tiny fingers wrapped around mine, and I swore right then that she would never feel the kind of emptiness I'd felt my whole life. We brought her home, and the house transformed. The quiet rooms filled with the sound of her cries, her laughter, her breathing. Every morning, sunlight touched her crib, and I'd whisper, "You're my reason." For a while, that was enough, but then the calls started again, not from my parents, from others, neighbors, relatives, old friends. "Did you see Jake's nursery? It's incredible. They're talking about a family vacation with your parents this summer. I heard they're helping Jake buy a bigger house." Each call felt like a needle, tiny but relentless. My parents hadn't even visited us since Lily was born. Not once. They'd seen photos, sure. Mom had commented, "So cute," on one post, but they hadn't come to hold her, to meet her, to see the life they'd helped me build, without them. It all came to a head on a rainy Saturday in March. Lily was 4 months old. I was running on 2 hours of sleep, hair unwashed, exhaustion clinging to my skin like a second layer. I was feeding her when my phone rang. "Mom." I hesitated before answering. "Hi, Mom. Emily. I was just calling to see if you could bring some of your old baby things over. Samantha wants to start setting up for their second." "Second? Baby?" I said slowly. "Oh, didn't Jake tell you? They're expecting again. Isn't that wonderful?" "Yeah," I said. "Wonderful," she went on, oblivious. "So if you have any of Lily's old clothes, maybe a few toys, Samantha could really use them." You know how hard it is for them right now. I stared at the floor. At Lily's, tiny socks are drying on the radiator. They can buy whatever they need, I said flatly. Oh, don't be selfish, Emily, Mom chided. You've always had enough. You're the responsible one, the strong one. There it was again. That word, that excuse, my throat burned. Maybe that's why you never helped me, I whispered. What was that? Nothing, I said quickly. I'll think about it. We hung up, and I sat there for a long time, the phone still warm in my hand, Lily asleep against my chest. Always enough. Always strong. Always alone. That night I told Mark everything. Every word, every memory, every bruise they'd left that no one could see. He didn't interrupt. He just listened, eyes dark with quiet anger. When I was done, he said, You've spent your whole life proving yourself to people who decided long ago that you'd never be enough for them. He was right. Something inside me cracked open that night, not from pain, but from clarity. And through that crack, a spark began to flicker. It wasn't rage, not yet. Just aerialization. That love without respect is just manipulation. And maybe it was time to stop letting them define me. I looked at Lily sleeping beside me, her chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. And for the first time, I whispered not a promise, but a decision. I'm done being their afterthought. The truth about families is this: they don't always break in one clean moment. Sometimes it happens slowly. A series of small betrayals, 1,000 cuts you pretend not to feel, until one day you look down and realize you're bleeding. It happened the spring after Lily's first birthday. The house was finally starting to feel like home again. I'd started a small online business, selling handmade baby clothes mostly. It didn't make much, but it kept me busy and it made me proud. Mark was doing better too and was finally promoted at work after years of grinding for it. We were stable, happy even, until my phone buzzed with a message from Mom. Emily, can you call me? It's important. I remember the way my stomach twisted when I saw those words. I called her right away. Mom? What's going on? Her voice was soft, fragile in a way I wasn't used to. Oh, honey, your father's been laid off. My heart sank. Dad, what happened? The dealership's downsizing. He's been there almost 30 years and they just... She stopped, voice breaking. They didn't even give him notice. I sat down at the kitchen table, the weight of it pressing on me. Mom, I'm so sorry. Is he okay? Well, that's the thing, she said. Jake's been trying to help where he can. But you know how things are for him and Samantha right now. 2 kids, mortgage, everything. There it was. The shift. The build-up to the real reason for her call. She took a breath. So, I was wondering if you and Mark might be able to help out a little. Just for a few months. Until your father finds something new. I stared at the wall, the soft hum of the refrigerator filling the silence. My parents hadn't helped me when I needed them. Not when I was pregnant. Not when we were broke and desperate, and now they wanted me to step in. I swallowed the bitterness rising in my throat. Mom, I said carefully, we're just starting to get back on our feet. We don't really have extra right now. Her voice hardened immediately. I'm not asking for a handout, Emily. Just family helping family. That word again, family. She used it like a weapon. I took a deep breath. I'll talk to Mark, I said finally. I'll see what we can do. When I told Mark, he didn't hesitate. We'll send them something, he said. Even if it's small. I stared at him, guilt and anger tangled in my chest. You're a better person than I am, I said quietly. He smiled sadly. No, I just don't want their poison turning you into them. He was right again. So we sent the money, and then another payment a month later. And another. Each time Mom's messages were short. Got it. Thank you, dear. No warmth. No gratitude. Just a transaction. Then, in early summer, I got a call from my aunt, Mom's sister. Emily, have you heard the news? She asked. What news? Your dad got his job back. They rehired him last week. I froze. What? Oh, yes. Your mom told me they were celebrating. Big family dinner with Jake and Samantha and the kids. She said it was such a relief. I held the phone tighter. They didn't tell me. Oh, honey, my aunt said gently. I'm sure it just slipped her mind. No, it hadn't slipped her mind. I waited a few days, giving them the chance to call me. To say something. Anything, nothing came. So finally, I sent a message. Hey, Mom. Aunt Carol mentioned Dad's back at work. That's great news. When did it happen? She replied an hour later. Oh, yes. It's been such a whirlwind. We were going to tell you, but Jake surprised your father with a dinner. And things just got busy. Busy. Always busy. I stared at the message for a long time before typing back. I'm glad he's doing better. That was it. No mention of the money. No, thank you. Just silence. Weeks passed. I tried to let it go, to focus on my life, on Lily. But resentment doesn't fade easily. It grows roots. One afternoon, while folding laundry, I got another text from Mom. We're having a barbecue this weekend. Jake's bringing the kids. You should come by, I hesitated. It was the first invitation in months. When I told Mark, he said, go if you want. But don't expect anything different, I nodded. I didn't expect anything different. I just wanted something. When we arrived, the backyard looked like a postcard. New patio furniture, freshly painted fence, even a brand new grill gleaming in the sunlight. Dad stood near it, laughing with Jake, while Mom fussed over Samantha, who was now pregnant with their third. No one even looked up when we walked in. For a moment, I thought about leaving, but then my mom spotted Lily and rushed over, clapping her hands. Oh my goodness! Look how big she's gotten. She crouched down, smiling at Lily. Then, without looking at me, he said, You should really start bringing her around more. She hardly knows us. I forced a smile. Well, you could visit too, you know. She straightened up, her tone sharp. You know how busy we are, Emily. Busy. Always busy. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low, I found myself standing near the kitchen window, watching Mom and Jake laugh together. Dad poured drinks. Samantha was showing off a new stroller, while my mom gushed about how much she loved it. And then I saw it. A small envelope on the counter. The same brand of stationery I'd always used to send her money. My stomach tightened. When I glanced at it, I saw my handwriting on the outside. My last check. Unopened. Still sealed. That's when I realized it. They hadn't even needed it, all that guilt, all that sacrifice, and they'd just left it sitting there. I left early that night. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't look back. Mark didn't ask questions on the drive home. He just reached over, taking my hand, and said, You ready to stop chasing them now? I think I already have. In the days that followed, I didn't call. Didn't text. Didn't reply to Mom's casual messages about family updates. I started to feel lighter, like breathing air that wasn't poisoned anymore. Then one evening, a message popped up from Jake. Hey, Mom said you've been distant. What's your problem? I stared at the screen, fingers trembling. Nothing. Just busy, he replied instantly. You've always been dramatic, Em. They're doing their best. Stop playing the victim. Victim. The word pulsed in my chest like a bruise. You have no idea what they've done, I wrote back. Maybe not, he said. But I know what you haven't done. Been grateful. Grateful. For being invisible. For being used. That was the moment I knew something in me had shifted for good. I stood by Lily's crib that night, watching her sleep, her small breaths steady and peaceful. And in that silence, I made myself a promise, not revenge. Not yet. Just this. I would never let her grow up thinking love should be earned through suffering. But as the days went by, as the texts from my family grew colder, something darker began to settle inside me. It wasn't just about what they'd done to me anymore. It was about what they'd taken from her. And one day they were going to see what that kind of pain created. Revenge isn't always born in fire. Sometimes it grows in silence, fed by years of being overlooked. By every polite dismissal and every "you're strong, you'll manage," it doesn't explode. It waits. Until the moment comes when silence finally turns into power. That moment came a year later. Lily was 2 by then, walking, talking, full of laughter that filled every corner of our house. Mark's business was thriving, and my small clothing line had taken off more than I ever expected. For the first time in my life, I didn't just feel stable. I felt free. Then one evening, out of nowhere, Mom called again. Her voice trembled, the same way it had when she told me Dad lost his job. "Emily," I didn't know who else to call. I sat down, fingers tightening around the phone. "What happened?" "It's Jake," she said, her voice breaking. "He made some bad investments. Lost almost everything. The house, the savings. They're drowning," my stomach tightened. And they're moving in with us. But it's not enough. We're trying to help with the kids, but between Dad's medical bills and everything else, we can't keep up. I waited. The pause stretched thin. Finally, she whispered, "Emily, could you lend us some money?" For a second, I thought she was joking. After everything. After all the times she'd turned away, minimized, and ignored. Now she wanted me to save them. "Mom," I said carefully, "you know we've got our own expenses. Business, daycare, house payments." "Oh, I know," she interrupted quickly. "I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. Just something temporary. You've always been so responsible. So capable." There it was again. That word she used when she wanted something. Capable. I closed my eyes. The silence stretched so long she started to fill it. "Emily, please. This is family. Jake's just had a rough patch. You know how hard he's tried." I almost laughed. Tried? He'd never had to try. Because she'd always made sure someone else paid the price for his mistakes. And this time, that someone wasn't going to be me. "Mom," I said quietly, "when I needed help, you told me you were too busy. Too stretched. You said Jake needed you more." She didn't respond. I continued, voice steady. "I didn't complain. I didn't beg. I worked. I built everything myself, because that's what you told me I was supposed to do. To be strong." Her breath hitched. "Emily, that's not fair, isn't it?" I cut in. "You ignored me when I needed family. And now you're asking me to save the same people who took everything you had left? Jake's your brother," she snapped. "You can't just stand by and watch him suffer." "Can't I?" The line went silent. I didn't say no outright. I just told her I'd think about it. And then, for the first time in my life, I didn't rush to fix things. I didn't carry the guilt that wasn't mine. Instead, I watched. Within weeks, their perfect world started to crumble. Jake lost his car. Samantha's 3rd pregnancy was difficult, and Mom couldn't stop complaining about the stress. They'd sold furniture, borrowed from relatives, but nothing was enough, and all the while, they avoided me, because pride doesn't die easily. Then came the family gathering, Mom's birthday. She invited everyone, probably hoping I'd bring a check wrapped in a bow. I almost didn't go. But Mark looked at me that morning and said, "You should. Not for them. For you." So I did. When I arrived, the atmosphere was tense. The house was cluttered now, boxes stacked in corners, bills on the counter, laughter forced and thin. Jake sat on the couch, eyes hollow, pride stripped away. Samantha barely looked at me. Mom greeted me with a hug that felt rehearsed. "Oh, Emily, I'm so glad you came." I smiled faintly. "Wouldn't miss it. We made small talk, ate cake, pretended we were still a family." And then, halfway through coffee, Mom leaned closer, voice low. "So, have you had a chance to think about what I asked?" I met her eyes. "I have," I said, "and I've decided." Her hopeful expression brightened, just for a second. Then I added, "I can't help you, Mom." The silence that followed was almost beautiful. Her smile faltered. "What? I can't," I repeated calmly. "We've worked too hard for what we have. I won't risk my daughter's future for someone else's mistakes." Her face hardened. "Emily, that's cruel." "No," I said softly. "That's balance. Jake stood abruptly, his voice sharp. You think you're better than us now? Because you've got some money? I turned to him, steady. No, Jake. I think I finally stopped apologizing for not being your backup plan. He opened his mouth to argue, but I was already standing. Mark took my hand. And as I looked at them, all of them, I realized I didn't feel angry anymore. Just done. As we walked out, my mom called after me. You'll regret this, Emily. Family is supposed to stick together. I turned back once, my voice quiet but sure. Family sticks together when it's love, Mom, not when it's convenient. Then I walked away. That night, I tucked Lily into bed and sat by the window, watching the rain. Mark joined me, wrapping his arm around my shoulders. You okay? I nodded. I think so. It wasn't triumph I felt. It wasn't joy. It was peace. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the forgotten daughter. I felt like someone who finally understood her own worth, and that was the real revenge. It's strange, the way peace feels after years of chaos. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or grand gestures. It's quiet, gentle, like the first breath after holding it too long. Months passed after that last confrontation. I didn't hear from my parents for a while. No calls, no messages, no guilt-laced reminders about family. At first, it felt empty. Then freeing, the house felt lighter. Lily laughed louder. Even my reflection looked different, less tired, more sure. Mark said one night, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, You know, you didn't just walk away from them. You walked toward yourself. He was right. A few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. My mother's handwriting. Neat, looping, familiar. I hesitated before opening it. Inside was a single page. I know you think I chose him over you. Maybe I did. But I see now what it cost me. I hope someday you'll forgive me. Mom. No apology could fix what had been broken. But for the first time, I didn't feel the need to answer. Because forgiveness isn't always about letting someone back in. Sometimes it's just about letting yourself move on. Now, when I stand in Lily's room, sunlight dancing across the soft cream walls, I think about that first day, when I built the nursery alone, how small I felt, how empty it seemed. And then I look at her, laughing, growing, whole, and realize it was never empty. It was waiting for peace, for love that didn't have conditions attached, for a life built on my terms. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. It's not shouting or proving them wrong. It's living better than they ever imagined you could. It's smiling, quietly, knowing you survived what they thought would break you. And that's exactly what I did. I never went back. But sometimes when I see the rain fall against the window, I think about my mother. About the family I tried so hard to save. And then I turn to Lily, her tiny hand wrapped around mine, and whisper, You'll never have to earn love, baby. You'll just have it. That's all the revenge I ever needed. Because in the end, peace is the loudest sound there is. If this story hit your heart, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Because sometimes, the quietest revenge stories deserve to be heard.